I just turned 32 and I've made over 1,000 YouTube videos over the last 4 years, and this is the most important YouTube video I've ever released. This might sound crazy, but if I didn't release this video, I'd go to my deathbed with regret. Here are 22 harsh truths I wish I knew in my 20s. Learn these today so you avoid unnecessary suffering, get to your goals faster, and enjoy the journey. Truth number 1. True success is built slowly, so think in decades. The most valuable things in life compound over very long periods of time. High leverage, high earning skills like sales and marketing, a strategic network, true confidence, vibrant health, wisdom, and wealth. What's frustrating in our early 20s is we're all starting at zero or close to it, and these things are slow to develop. When I first entered the rat race at 22, I was an entry-level sales development rep at Oracle, pounding the phones, getting rejected, and the job was unglorious, and unsurprisingly, I wasn't very good to start. And I'll never forget when my first manager sat me down, looked me in the eyes, and asked me, "How does it feel to be last?" My initial knee-jerk reaction was I was pissed. I took it personally. But then I responded by taking ownership and putting my nose to the grindstone. 3 months later, I became the #1 SDR on the team. And then 3 years after that, I got promoted at Oracle and landed my dream job at Google Cloud, which took me to my dream city of Austin, Texas. 3 years after that, after getting promoted at Google Cloud, I ended up taking a leap to join a startup as the second founding account executive, and I started posting content on YouTube. And 3 years after that, here we are now with a YouTube channel at 6,000 subscribers and 1 million collective views and growing, and a business tech sales accelerator that helps people strategically build six-figure tech sales careers that I'm now all in on along with this YouTube channel, and I'm looking to make my first 6 figures this year. For me, it took 10 years to build the financial capital, connections, sales skills, and self-development to go all in as an entrepreneur and help 100,000 people create lives of freedom and impact, which is my mission that I'm going to be working on over the coming decades. It wasn't one heroic sales call, YouTube post, or transformative moment that got me here. It was the small daily sacrifices, connections, and contributions that compounded over weeks, months, and years. Bill Gates says that most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what they can do in 10. So if you've got big dreams, but you're feeling stuck and frustrated today, remind yourself to zoom out and think in decades. It's amazing what you can accomplish if you just don't stop. Number 2, own your shit. It's easy to play the victim and make excuses, but it's not until we take ownership for our problems and our fucked upness that we can actually empower ourselves to change things and create the life we want. I personally played the victim and made excuses my whole life until I was 26. Up until that point, I always struggled with anxiousness and not feeling like I was enough. I blame that on my past trauma growing up with alcoholism, and it was a really good excuse. But I'll never forget the moment when I suddenly discovered in a self-development seminar that I paid thousands to be in, the brutal truth I needed to hear that led to a phone call that changed everything. By blaming my past trauma for my current results in life, I got hidden benefits. I got to be right about my shitty situation, which felt good, and I got to avoid taking on the work and risk required to step into my greatness. But I realized the cost of those hidden benefits was everything: my future, my potential, my happiness. As long as I continued to blame things outside of myself, I would stay disempowered. And when I confronted the cost of staying disempowered, I picked up the phone and I called the person in my life who I had blamed everything on. We had a powerful, transformative conversation where I not only forgave them, but I asked for forgiveness for the blame and the resentment I harbored against them, for the problems that were now my responsibility to solve as an adult. I created the possibility for a fresh start in our relationship, and after I hung up the phone, I felt a nervous, anxious feeling in my gut. And that was the feeling of stepping into complete ownership of my life and everything that was to come. My life was in my hands now. That moment changed my life. It led to a deeper connection with that person, a promotion to field sales at Google Cloud at only 26 years old. It led to the start of my YouTube channel and my career coaching business Tech Sales Accelerator that I'm now all in on. And underpinning all of that, it led to deeper confidence and a willingness to bet on myself and focus on what really matters in life. Don't wait to 26 like I did to step into the driver's seat of your life. You matter and you're called to make a big impact. Own your story now. Number 3, get off yourself and make service a habit. If we constantly seek to serve others in every interaction, even in small ways through small gestures like a smile, a kind word, or a listening ear, or maybe buying someone a coffee, that generosity compounds and comes back to us. When we consistently give to others, we not only experience the joy of deeper relationships, which is the #1 driver of happiness in the long run, but also as a byproduct of those relationships, we experience job opportunities, business opportunities, dating prospect opportunities, and personal opportunities of all kinds. All opportunities are tied to people, and those opportunities are unpredictable. When you're constantly seeking to contribute to others in your life, over time you build an army of personal walking ambassadors that want you to win in life, and there's no better example of that than my father. My dad works at a golf club in Naples, Florida, where it costs $200,000 to join. The members are billionaires, CEOs, top politicians, and athletes. And no, he isn't the CEO of the golf club. He doesn't run the show. His actual job on paper is far from glorious. He's actually a locker room attendant, and part of his job description is folding towels and shining shoes. And yet he's the most influential man at that golf club. That's because he makes each person who steps into that locker room feel like the most important person in the world. My father serves each of these members at such a high level, in such a personal way, that the members go out of their way to write notes to the owner of the club singing his praises. And they shower my father and our family with experiences that we could never afford because of how generous he's been to them. My dad's secret to service can be found in a simple mantra: take care of people and make it happen. Take care of people means seek to understand others' needs proactively and meet them before they even ask. And make it happen means follow through and deliver on what you say you will. Be reliable and have integrity. Every day in your personal and professional life, seek out ways to take care of people and make it happen. And going back to Truth 1, do it for decades. Number 4 is a deep one. Stop letting your programming define you and rediscover yourself. Take the time to really get to know yourself and understand your blind spots. As we enter into adulthood, much of the life that we've created, who we see ourselves to be, and what we want out of life is dictated by external pressures. It's dictated by our parents and society's expectations of us. And in many ways, we aren't running the show in our lives. Automatic subconscious programming is. False narratives like I'm not good enough, I'm not smart, a good life should look like this. Some of these narratives are inherited and others we created in response to traumatic events early on in our lives. That programming is the source of the persistent problems that we keep running into in our relationships, our career, and basically lead us to project the past into the future and completely disconnect from our true, most powerful, authentic version of ourselves. We're not going to deep dive into it here, but invest money into a leadership and development seminar like Landmark or PSI, which is what I went through myself, and come to terms with your blind spots, what you didn't know about what's running the show in your life. Distinguish the subconscious programming that you inherited, that you created in response to experiences in your life and childhood, so that you can come to terms with it, you can see it completely and clearly, take ownership for it, and change it. And when your eyes are finally open to that subconscious programming, a beautiful, powerful thing happens and it loses its power and you reconnect with the core of who you really are. You step into the best version of yourself, the most powerful version of yourself that you were called to be. Past problems stop projecting into the future. Everything shifts and new possibilities open up. Number 5, you're not good at everything, so take a look in the mirror. Figure out what you're good at and what you're not. Take a test like Clifton Strength Assessments to understand your natural strengths and find a career path where you can double down on those strengths. For example, when I took the test, I figured out some of my strengths were woo, winning others over, and collector. It shouldn't come as a surprise that I built a successful career in sales over the past 10 years at Oracle, Google Cloud, and a startup. And I'm still in this space teaching others to be successful because winning others over was one of my natural strengths. And I found a path where I could get paid to connect with people and build deeper relationships. It also shouldn't come as a surprise that I have a successful podcast with over 140 episodes because my strength of collector means I like to collect different things. And in the case of a podcast, I'm collecting many different perspectives and sharing that with the world and amplifying that perspective and inspiration. Both sales and podcasting have allowed me to express my natural strengths, which has been really gratifying. It's brought me joy along the journey, and it's helped me go further and be successful. At the same time, I've had to look at managing my imperfections and weaknesses, which we all have. Our imperfections come along with our strengths. I love people. I love connecting with others. I'm great at relationships. I'm great at inspiring people. But on the flip side, I'm not the most organized. It's important to take time to understand our imperfections and even seek out feedback from others on our imperfections and areas where we can improve. I love that in sales, through continual action, through continually being in communication with others, we get a consistent feedback loop on how we show up and how we can improve. And I've been able to use that by being coachable and having a little bit of humility to improve and identify my weaknesses. And the key here is when you identify your weaknesses and imperfections, don't spend all your time trying to turn them into strengths. Instead, double down on your strengths and expand on those strengths, but manage your weaknesses and imperfections and outsource them where possible. Figure out how you can surround yourself with people in your life whose natural strengths are your weaknesses and outsource those weaknesses to those other people. As I build my business, I'm more of the visionary and inspiration, the partnerships guy, the marketing guy, and sales guy. I'm going to need an integrator and an operator that comes in and that I can outsource a lot of the organization to. And that's just something I know about myself. Seeking to understand ourselves, including our natural strengths and our weaknesses, gives us the foundation to go way further in our careers and in our lives. Number 6, don't follow your passion. At least not at first. In your 20s, don't get caught up on following your passion, finding the perfect career path that makes your heart sing and brings your dreams to life. Instead, be a little more practical and find a career path with a high employment rate where you get paid a lot of money for developing valuable skills. What you'll find is that as you learn to do well on that career path and you develop competency and agency, you get really good, you start winning and making a lot of money, you're going to enjoy what you're doing and you're going to become passionate about it. That's exactly what happened to me with tech sales. Earlier in point 1, I mentioned when my boss sat me down in my first role at Oracle when I was a sales development representative just coming out of college, and he asked me, how does it feel to be last? And I gave him a knee-jerk response, and I said, I'm not even passionate about tech sales. I don't even think this is what I want to do. And look at me now. I'm here in front of you with a YouTube channel and a career coaching business, Tech Sales Accelerator, that is committed to helping 100,000 people launch tech sales careers as a vehicle to creating a life of freedom and impact. Who would have thought I'd be here? I would have never predicted this. And it's a testament to the fact that when you lean in and take ownership, especially on a career path where there's a high employment rate and skills are highly valued and you have the chance to make a lot of money if you do well, it shows that if you move up and do well and develop that competency, you learn to love it and you experience unpredictable opportunities, and it might just turn into your true passion where you're teaching other people how to be successful like I am. It's just crazy this happened, and looking back, I have to say that in my personal opinion, I believe tech sales is the greatest career path for anyone in their early 20s that doesn't know what they want to do with their life, but knows they're called to be great and wants to unlock their potential. Because a career in tech sales will pay you 6 figures to develop the highest leverage skills in the world, sales and copywriting, to build your strategic network, and as I mentioned before, all opportunities are tied to people, and to become a better version of yourself who's more confident, capable, and impactful. What you can do is hop on the tech sales wave and ride it to deep six figures, developing all these skill sets and connections, and build your passions on the side. And eventually, as the passions you're building on the side gain momentum, you can take all the financial capital, skill development, self-development, and connections that you developed in tech sales to exit the game and go further with your passions and anything you want to do tomorrow. Number 7, certainty limits you. So stop trying to be right. Our fundamental human need to be right about things is what actually limits us and puts up barriers between ourselves and others. The moment we think we know it all, we cut off our potential and possibilities in our lives. And one of the greatest ways that we limit ourselves and our potential is by clinging to certainty around who we are and what we're capable of. But if we can give that all up and no longer approach who we are and what we're capable of as something that's fixed and certain, and instead approach those things from a place of curiosity for what's possible, then we remove any limitations, any barriers, and can actually step into our true greatness, which is greater than our small-mindedness in the current moment, informed by the past, can even begin to understand. Instead of telling yourself who you are, what if you asked yourself, who am I becoming? And instead of telling yourself what you're capable of, what if you asked yourself, what am I capable of? I remember one time I was in the gym, I was sitting at the incline bench press with 75-pound dumbbells in each hand. I hope you're impressed. And I thought to myself, I'm going to do 12 reps. But suddenly I had this epiphany and I thought, why did I limit myself to 12 reps? What am I actually capable of? Let's see what we can do. And instead of limiting myself to 12 reps, I leaned back, pressed the weight over my head, and what do you know, I surprised myself and I hit 15 reps. That was one small example of the power of giving up our need to cling to certainty to instead explore what's actually possible and to be curious about what's possible. I guarantee you that the future answer to the question, what am I capable of, is greater than what your current understanding will limit you to. Number 8. Shut the fuck up. Early in my sales career, I made the mistake of spending way too much time trying to figure out exactly what to say and how to sound good, when in reality, the most influential and impactful person is the person who talks less and listens more. When we allow others to talk about themselves, it triggers a self-disclosure loop that releases dopamine, and it gets them feeling good, and they associate that good feeling with you. For that reason, in sales, the person who is asking the questions and seeking to understand is the one that is making the other person feel good and is actually building influence and controlling the conversation. I did a podcast with a friend, Emma, who has closed $50 million deals and even deals as large as $250 million in tech sales. She sells at the highest levels, dealing with executives all the time, and she said the key to developing influence with executives, C-levels at billion-dollar companies, is to go into conversations without an agenda to pitch at them or talk their ear off, no matter how much value you think you have to bring to the table, but to instead listen, seek to understand, and to ask surprisingly simple questions like, how's your day going? How's your week been so far? To get them talking, to then be able to show that you can actively listen. Anytime she meets with a high-powered executive for the first time, her only goal for that conversation is to listen and learn as much as she can about them, both personally and professionally. Only from there can she begin to propose tailored solutions that meet their needs. Take a page out of one of the greatest personal and professional development books of all time, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and seek first to understand. Number 9, stop waiting around and just do something. People make the mistake of waiting for inspiration and motivation to magically land on them like fairy dust sprinkled down from the heavens, when the reality is that the motivation formula is the other way around. You first take action to trigger motivation and inspiration that fuels more action, that triggers more inspiration and motivation that leads to more action. And as you can see, an upward spiral of motivation and inspiration ensues. And it all started with that first action you took when you didn't feel like it. So if you have a goal in front of you, but you feel unmotivated to achieve it, first build a plan. When you lay out a clear plan, your chances of success greatly increase, and you're more likely to follow through and be motivated on the days when you don't feel like it and you're feeling crappy or sick. Laying out a clear plan is a highly effective step to build momentum, and then follow up with the first minimum viable action towards your plan and towards your goal. That first minimum viable action you take, that baby step towards your goals, regardless of how you feel, will trigger an upward spiral of motivation. And that momentum will carry you forward. Unsure what to do with your life? Action is the answer. Try something. Get feedback. Talk to people. Learn what you like and what you don't, what you're good at and what you're not. Eventually, through action, trial and error, and being a real-life experiment, your purpose and your path will become clear and reveal itself. Want to become an entrepreneur or a YouTuber? Click upload for the first time and become a creator. Go to LegalZoom and form an LLC. Create a minimum viable product. Reach out to customers and get their feedback. Have conversations. The best way to learn, especially as an entrepreneur, is through doing, and only through doing can you collect feedback and iterate and improve your way to greatness. Are you struggling with lack of confidence and limiting beliefs? Understanding why you're not confident isn't the answer. It's taking action to produce results that contradict your limiting beliefs that you're not enough. Treat your life as an experiment to unlock the results you're looking for. Don't leave knowledge locked in your head. Take action and convert it to wisdom. And most of all, don't leave your dreams stuck in your heart and head. Take action and convert your dreams into reality. Number 10. You will fail in life. Get used to it. If you want to be great in life, give yourself permission to fail. Embrace it as the tuition you pay to realize your greatness. And know that the people who fail faster and more often learn and improve faster and go further in the long run. Failure is the source of true confidence, because true confidence is not based on expectations of success, but comfort with failing, looking bad, embarrassing yourself, and getting rejected, and being able to hop back in the saddle and bounce back quickly and keep moving forward. And remember this, the only true failure is not trying or doing anything at all. Number 11, a happy life is not what you think. A happy life is not devoid of stress and problems, but full of meaningful stress and meaningful problems. The dream job that you take that pays you 6 figures and gives you flexibility is also the job you stress over. The amazing, adorable puppy that brings you so much joy is also the puppy that eats through 3 pairs of AirPods, costing you hundreds of dollars, and poops on the carpet. Yes, this is coming from personal experience. I love you, Bella, but sometimes you're a lot. There's no such thing as a life without problems. Elon Musk has money problems, and so does a homeless guy. It's just that I personally would rather have Elon Musk's money problems. We're always going through a dance of trading in our current problems for better problems. If we look at the path of a career in tech sales, which is what this channel is committed to, helping people strategically build 6-figure tech sales careers, the first problems you start out with when you're not in tech sales is that you're not making the money you want, you don't feel like you have a good financial upside, you feel stuck, you don't have the lifestyle you want. But then you solve those problems by breaking into tech sales and landing a great job. And then you unlock a nice stable job with a big upside, making 80 to 100K plus in earnings. And then you have new problems as an entry-level SDR, where you have to cold call people and interrupt their day, which is really uncomfortable and drives a lot of anxiety, and you get rejected, you have to grind and do a lot of monotonous tasks over and over, you have to update the internal CRM or customer relationship relationship management software day in and day out to keep your boss happy. Maybe you deal with some internal politics or challenges with people at the organization. Who knows? But the point is you get new problems that you deal with. Then you get promoted on the path and you start making even more money, deep six figures, but now you have new problems of heightened pressure and responsibility. But those problems of heightened pressure and responsibility are much better than the original problems when you could barely pinch any pennies together to pay the bills, where you were looking for a better path in the first place. Long story short, solving one problem plants the seed for the next, and you get better and better problems as you evolve and move up in the world. So embrace the journey, choose better problems, and find meaning in solving those problems, which is something that we're wired for as human beings. And my hope for you on your problem-solving journey is along the way you find a bigger problem to solve. You find a deeper burden to shoulder. You find a purpose worth fighting for that extends beyond yourself and that serves others. And I hope that when you find that purpose, you have the wisdom to step into it, to commit to it, and give yourself to it fully. Because the world gets out of the way and gets behind the person who fully gives themselves to that one thing, that higher calling and their highest point of contribution. And that's why I'm here sitting in front of this camera, battling the war of art to produce this video over the course of weeks, because I am committed to helping more people step into their potential and create lives of freedom and impact. I want to help 100,000 people launch six-figure careers, but go beyond that to build meaningful, fulfilling lives. That's the purpose I'm willing to fight for. And when I work with people one-on-one, I shoulder their burdens, I take on their goals, their losses become mine just like their wins are mine. And that's a lot of responsibility. It's an emotional roller coaster ride, and I am happy to take on that burden because this means the world to me, and I know this is what I'm called to do. This is what purpose looks like for me, and I pray to God you find out what it looks like for you. Number 12, eliminate success assassins and side quests quickly. Success assassins and side quests are the short-term, pleasure-filled, empty habits and distractions that sabotage our long-term success. These are things like partying and drinking, serial dating, chasing dopamine highs, and numbing with social media. These are all things that I've personally struggled with and I had to give up. The most exciting things in life start out fun, but they have a big cost and diminishing returns over time. When we're young, it's easy to party and goof off, have a bunch of casual sex, take a ton of vacations, but that all takes our time and attention away from our potential and what matters. And over time, it's less and less enjoyable. If you aren't saying no to fun and good times, you 1, haven't defined what matters to you, or 2, you're not taking what matters to you seriously. One of my greatest personal success assassins and side quests that robbed me of my potential and threatened everything that I stood for and that mattered to me was drinking. I really struggled with it. And it wasn't just about the hangover the next day that killed my productivity and made me feel like shit. It was about the times that I did things that were out of integrity and weren't in alignment with the person I knew myself to be. That was way too costly. In fact, it led to a lost friendship. But finally, I confronted that success assassin. I gave up that side quest. And now I've fully committed to reaching my potential, and I haven't drank for over 2 years. In those 2 years of not drinking, my life has completely transformed. I'm no longer a slave to impulses. I have true freedom, which is found through discipline and focusing on my highest point of contribution. It's not just about what we add to our lives that gets us to the next level, like adding good habits. It's actually about what we're willing to give up that leads to quantum leaps in performance and our ability to focus our time, effort, and energy on what really matters, what's truly meaningful in life. What success assassins and side quests will you give up to reach your potential? What old ways of thinking and being will you give up to step into the best version of yourself? And by the way, I just gave up my 6-figure cushy base salary in tech sales after 10 years to go all in on this YouTube channel and all in on helping people strategically build 6-figure tech sales careers as a vehicle to creating a life of freedom and impact. Number 13, dad bods aren't cool. I'm laughing because there was a point when I had a dad bod and I rocked it and I was actually very confident. And I even had some success with the ladies. And I learned that being shredded doesn't matter when it comes to attracting a partner. It's not about that. It's about your personality and your character and who you are. But all that said, I'll never go back to that dad bod phase. And I look back and I'm like, what was I thinking? Because I've seen throughout my life, the whole tapestry, that the times that I've been in the best shape, when I've really taken care of my physical health and well-being, I show up at my best and the results in my life are improved across the board. Working out and taking care of our health is the keystone habit that amplifies everything. If there's one habit I can encourage anyone to be consistent with, it is taking care of your physical body. You don't have to be shredded, although that actually does really feel good. It's something to be proud of because you have to work hard to get shredded. But I encourage anyone who wants to reach their potential and show up at their best every day and enjoy the journey along the way to commit oneself to a consistent workout routine. Even more, set goals and try to continually improve. Implement what I've heard called progressive overload, where you lift 20 pounds one day and then move up to 25 pounds the next workout, or you lift 10 reps in one set one day and then move up to 11 reps the next time around. You're trying to create a sense of progress that won't just make you probably see extra ripples in your abs or that bicep vein you've been trying to get, but will actually unlock a growth mindset and introduce psychological wins that you can carry with you into your workday to crush the phones, to crush that proposal, to feel confident when asking out that attractive stranger. It just carries over. What's amazing about the microcosm of the gym is we can experience tangible progress and see it right before our eyes. We lift one more pound, we do one more rep. We see the body starting to tighten up, we're looking good. That is amazing. And finally, from a long-term perspective, consistently working out is like making daily deposits in the 401k bank account for your brain. Consistent exercise will actually prevent degenerative disease. That's powerful. If you want to live a long life and a good life, forget dad bods and get to the gym. Number 14, shit goes wrong, surrender and respond. Looking back at my life, I realized all the things that went wrong, didn't go according to plan, all the challenges and obstacles that I faced, ultimately worked for me to help catapult me to where I was really meant to be. They all got me ahead in the long run when I chose the most productive response. I've learned to set an aim and take action towards goals, but continually say the following prayer. God, I will make my plans, but if they are not in alignment with your ultimate plan, please let them fail. The power of this prayer is that it's a prayer of surrender, and surrender is the highest level of existence. I'm trusting in a plan that is greater than my own limited understanding that is simply informed by the past and not what is possible. I'm almost moved to tears when I think about what's possible for me, for you, and for all of us when we truly surrender and can dance with the beautiful chaos of life. So when things go wrong in my life, I surrender to the plan that is greater than my own. I trust, and then I respond as effectively as possible. Back when I was an SDR at Oracle, I found myself at a bar in the financial district at Market Lounge, and I heard a commotion to my left, and a bouncer was wrestling a drunk guy out the door. He threw him into the glass, shattered the door, the hydraulics broke, and a piece of metal was flung right into my right eye. Suddenly, I saw a white light, and what ended up happening was my eye in that moment was permanently damaged. My eye's still blurry to this day. Suddenly the camera has disappeared. And let's be real, at that time, it was traumatic. And I became angry. I asked God, why did this happen? But then I somehow chose to surrender and accept what I couldn't change. My eye would be damaged. And I actually wasn't able to go to the gym. There were a bunch of things I couldn't do. I became limited. I even had an eye patch over this right eye. But I chose my most productive response, and I channeled that anger into focus in my job as an SDR, and I thought, I can't work out, I can't do physical activity, I'm going to get damn good at this job. And that led me to get promoted at Oracle and eventually led me to Google and catalyzed my career, and look, now I'm here. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. But man, I chose my response, and looking back, even that disaster, that accident has served me and catapulted me to exactly where I was meant to be. I've got so many other examples of that, like when I didn't get a promotion, that because I didn't get the promotion, even though I was upset in the moment, it led to an even better promotion that changed my trajectory. I remember when a job offer delayed and it led to unemployment, and then it opened up an opportunity to go back home and be there for a family member that needed me. We connected more deeply. Inspiration was sparked for what would ultimately bloom into this YouTube channel. I've even had a depression in the pandemic that was excruciating and painful, and I felt like I was taking steps back, but it ultimately catapulted me forward and gave me more clarity and purpose than ever, and more resilience coming out of it. Always remember, life is like a tapestry. On the back, it's chaotic and full of knots. But without those knots, you don't get the beautiful image on the front. Number 15, growth is painful. Lean into it. Personal growth is never comfortable. It always involves some form of loss. Loss of old ways of thinking and being, loss of old identity, loss of old relationships. And as we shed the skin of the things that limited us, that kept us small, we also experience a lot of discomfort because those old dysfunctional ways of thinking, being, those relationships are very familiar. And in that loss, in that period of grieving, we actually can experience depression, and that depression is a part of shedding that old identity and stepping into a better version of ourselves. It's painful, and you have to go through it and feel through it. I'll never forget in the pandemic when I was going through a clinical depression. My mind was in the gutter. It was one of the darkest periods of my life. And that was happening because I was going through a metamorphosis. I was changing and growing. I was shedding old ways of thinking and being. What I was really giving up, that I can now see looking back, was my attachment to external validation. I was so caught up on the fact that I worked at Google, I went to Georgetown University, I had all these accomplishments, and I thought it was the accomplishments that led me to feel like I was enough and that proved that I was enough. I also had to go through giving up my attachment to my performance, where I told myself, hey, if I perform well, I'm good enough. Going through that depression, I actually was failing and struggling and coming to terms with the fact that I am more than my performance. And I came out of that depression with more clarity on who I was and confidence than ever before. Now my self-esteem became rooted in who I truly was. It wasn't tied to external validation and social proof that I was enough, or proof from my performance that I was good enough. That personal transformation that was birthed from a 7-month prolonged pain period coming out of that depression, it led me to take a leap to leave Google and go to a startup where I was the second founding US seller and had an amazing 4 years and learned so much. I grew so much. And it also led me to give up my old YouTube channel to step into Chris Bussing, my own name, focused on tech sales, and the rest is history. Here we are at 6,000 plus subscribers, 1 million collective views, and just getting started. Thank God for that depression. Thank God for the pain of change. Thank God for that growth. I leaned into it, and it was all worth it. Number 16, don't be a lone wolf. Relationships are everything in the long run. We live in a hustle porn culture, and I'll admit I give into it. I work my ass off Monday through Friday and on the weekends. I love working hard towards my goals. I know it can make an impact for myself and others, but what I've realized the older I get, especially at 32, is that relationships are everything, and relationships are actually the #1 driver of long-term happiness. There's a book that I recommend you read called The Good Life by Robert Waldinger, and it's based on the longest standing study on happiness out of Harvard that followed young men throughout their lives in old age and even has transcended multiple generations. The study's findings are conclusive. Regardless of socioeconomic status, the #1 factor driving long-term happiness and even diminished suffering in old age is having loving relationships. So don't forget to invest in your relationships every step of the way, even if you're grinding towards monster dreams. Because imagine if you build an empire, but you have no one to enjoy it with. Or if you're like some people I've observed in my life that destroy their families as they climb to the top of the corporate ladder, and then have to deal with the aftermath, the consequences afterwards, and it's messy and there's a ton of regret. And then what about the 40 or 50-year-old that spent their whole life building their business and focusing on the grind, and they missed out on finding love, and now they're scrambling, realizing there's an emptiness and a void that they want to fill. It's important to grow up as a human being and go from a dependent child to an independent adult. But the next stage of growth is actually interdependence. We all go further together. It's all about being able to synergize and find win-wins, whether it's in business or maybe even finding the love of our life.
Number 17. There's no such thing as a bad emotion. Every emotion we experience in life, whether we label it as positive or negative, can be used constructively or destructively. Even a good mood when we feel on top of the world can cause us to do dumb, destructive things that actually hurt us. One of the most useful things we can learn in life is how to channel negative emotions like anger constructively. Earlier on, I mentioned the story of the time I was in Boston where I was struck by a piece of metal in my right eye and it got permanently damaged. And I became extremely angry and frustrated, but then I channeled that anger into focus in my job as a sales development rep at Oracle. I got promoted and that catalyzed my career. That was a productive response to that anger. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, a cause that has championed safer streets and the well-being of children everywhere, started from the source of a mother's righteous anger when her daughter was killed by a drunk driver. That mother took her anger and pain and turned it into a purpose to fight for. Anger as an emotion can be righteous. It's not good or bad, but it's how we respond to it. We could either use anger to fuel us to do bad things to ourselves and others, or we could turn that anger into our competitive advantage to triumph and be successful and make a bigger impact for other people. And if you're someone who's watching this video and you have big dreams and you feel like you're called to greatness, yeah, you're going to always feel a little bit dissatisfied. Get used to it and let that drive you. We don't choose our knee-jerk emotions, but we can choose what we do with them. Number 18, you don't have to be a morning person. I've had periods of my life where I woke up at 5:30 a.m. to get ahead of the day because the early bird catches the worm. And it was great. I actually think that objectively it is a good thing to get up early in the morning before the world wakes up, where you're less reactive to texts coming in and you can actually execute on your priorities and get things done. You really get ahead of the day. But the reality is that we all have different biological rhythms, and I didn't really sustain the 5:30 a.m. routine. I'm more of a 7 a.m. guy because a lot of times I'm struck by inspiration late at night and I want to run with it, and I get work done sometimes as late as 10 or 11 p.m. We all have different seasons of our life. My sister, she works at Starbucks. She has to wake up crazy early to get to work on time. Maybe you did crew in college and you had early workouts where you had to get up early. But then as you progress, maybe you move to another job, a different career path, and move on in your life. You don't have to get up as early. You don't have that same necessity. And you could wake up super early, but you realize that you actually hit your stride later on in the day. There's so many life situations and circumstances based on where we're at in our unique season of life that determine when we might want to get up and go to bed and our daily rhythm. And what I've heard from people further down the path, and I've just noticed this trend, is as we get older, we tend to become more of a morning person. And maybe we even need less sleep, but that will change naturally over time. Don't resist yourself and shit on yourself if you're not naturally a morning person. Here's what we actually need to think about and prioritize rather than the exact time we wake up and whether we're a morning person or not. Do we get enough sleep? That's critical to our functioning in life. Do we get 7.5, 8 hours or more? Are we able to fit in all of our top priorities in our day? And do we have time for rhythms of self-care, taking care of our physical body and well-being, our mental and emotional state, and rhythms of rest and play and enjoying socialization with the people that matter in our lives? If you're not a morning person today, don't worry about it. Maybe you'll be a morning person one day, but forget being a morning person and just be a day maximizer person. Number 19, you have nothing to prove. The fundamental questions that every human being, guy or girl, is born asking themselves, and the question gets louder and louder into adulthood, is, am I enough? and am I capable? These questions are so fundamentally embedded within us, and it's important to recognize them and tell ourselves we are enough, we are capable, and we have nothing to prove to anyone, including ourselves. You and I, we were born intrinsically as a 10 out of 10. Our valuable is innate, it's untouchable, and that has never changed. But over time, we get disconnected from that true intrinsic worth. And we fall into these patterns of desperately trying to prove that the answers to the questions, am I enough, am I capable, is yes and yes, by stacking external sources of validation that we're enough, that we're capable. It might be our achievements and our performance. And this is something that I built my whole life around. I've struggled with it tremendously. I still struggle with the fact that I try to prove myself that I'm enough. I wrote on this paper, you have nothing to prove. I don't know if you can even see it, but I look at it every day because I realize it's something that I need to tell myself. I don't have anything to prove, and neither do you. Imagine if we could tell ourselves and actually believe it, that we are enough. We are worthy of our dreams in an abundant and giving world. All we have to do is be us. So much of my life, I told myself I was good enough in my own eyes if I performed, if I got into a top university like Georgetown, if I worked at a top company like Google. And as I achieved those things, I still felt empty. I still wasn't enough. The questions, am I enough? Am I capable? Would always need to be re-answered with new accomplishments, new performance that validated and reconfirmed that the answer was yes. But I'm working on giving that up, and I've always wanted people to like me. I want the approval of others. I want your approval. I want you to like and subscribe. Yes, I do. But what I've noticed is that in working to separate from that, it is truly freeing. To give myself approval, just as you should give yourself approval. And if you're a person of faith like me, when the creator of the universe loves you and made you and formed you uniquely and gives you his stamp of approval, what more can you really ask for? And what's counterintuitive is that the people I've come across that aren't seeking external validation, they're not trying to stack their achievements. They don't base their self-worth in that. They're not trying to seek the approval of others. They don't base their self-worth in that. They actually end up achieving many great things because they're so unattached and being showered with the approval of others because they don't actually need it. Number 20, don't wait to bet on yourself. In your early 20s, you're going to learn more and more about yourself through experimentation, trying different careers and jobs, talking to different people, having different experiences. And along the way, you might just stumble upon your purpose and your calling, that business you want to create that's going to make a big impact in this world, that YouTube channel that's going to lift other people up through a great message you have to share, through solving problems. And you feel called and pulled to make a big impact, to focus on your highest point of contribution. You know this is what you're meant to do, but maybe you have a W-2 job that you got into that was useful for a good amount of time, that helped you develop skills and make money, that has you handcuffed, where you're just building on the side. You're not giving it everything, and it's your excuse to not go all in. There's going to come a point in your life where it's time to take the leap of faith and to bet on yourself and go all in on what you're called to do. That leap of faith is going to require you give up what you're used to, what you're comfortable with, in order to step into what is greater, especially in the long run. It might mean you have to give up a cushy base salary and a job that you're comfortable with, that you're really good at. You might need to make some changes that are going to be scary. But the reality is, the scariest thing for many people is success itself, because it's different even if it's better, and the subconscious, like a terrified little child, is afraid of that. It doesn't know how the success will be sustained and maintained. In my childhood home, there's a quote, and it's framed. My mom put it on the kitchen countertop. I can picture it right now, and it says, "Dare to do something so great. You'll only succeed if God is in it." Life is way too short, and the last thing we want is to get to our deathbed with our song and dance still stuck in our hearts. We don't want to go out of this world with regrets. And one of the greatest regrets of the dying, and I know there's a book on this, was that they didn't take a leap. to pursue their actual calling and to do the work that was really meaningful that they were called to do. I just took my daring leap 4 weeks ago to go all in on my YouTube channel and my career coaching business Tech Sales Accelerator that helps people launch six-figure tech sales careers, and speaking and training at companies in SaaS, but I even see that transcending into multiple industries. And I gave up a cushy six-figure base salary in an account executive role in tech sales, and my income did drop. I had to give up what was comfortable in order to open up the upside long term that is far greater, not just financially, but in terms of the impact I want to make in this world. Yes, my income did drop, but it's already rising. I can see it rising. I can see the future vision unfolding. And it's not perfect. It's challenging. But damn, does it feel good just to be in the arena. And I'm going to get to my deathbed knowing I sang my song. I did my dance. And I'm going to watch my memories like reruns of the best movie I ever saw, where I gave my gift and I went all out. In your 20s, pay attention. If you feel that pull towards your calling, that tug on your heart, take the bet. You don't want regret. Number 21. With enough persistence, the impossible becomes possible. My dad got rejected by my mom multiple times when he tried to ask her out. But he didn't give up. He decided he'd ask her out one more time. And what he didn't realize was that my mom made up in her mind, if this guy asks me one more time, I'm going to give him a shot. He did, and that turned into a 42-year marriage. If my dad stopped one ask short, I wouldn't even be here. From there, of course, my dad is a closer. He sealed the deal. He put a ring on it. They got married, and they started trying to have kids. And over 10 years, they couldn't have children. They even were struck by unspeakable tragedy along the way, having stillborn twins. But my mom and dad had faith. My mom in particular, her faith is so strong, she continued to persist and pray and believe she was called to have a child. And she had a whole team of people praying with her. And eventually, after 10 years, the miracle baby was born. And that was me. Apparently, there were 350 people at my baby shower, all celebrating the miracle baby. And Kathy Polson, one of my mom's friends, could point to her journal saying, I prayed for 10 years for this child. And thanks to my mom and her persistence and faith, I stepped into a narrative of being the miracle baby. I am the product of her persistence and faith, and I wouldn't be here without it. So you can imagine that that is what I stand for. That's what I believe in. And I took that into tech sales, where I pursued deals for a year and lost them, and then a year later won them back for the long run, expanding into multi-pillar partnerships, where I've planted seeds and put out over 1,000 YouTube videos for maybe 4 years. I built my business Tech Sales Accelerator over 2 years, and now we're just getting started. I am unshakably persistent and faithful, even when there's no indication that success will ever come. And that is what I hope that you will embrace as well as you chart towards your dreams. If you're trying to have kids, you're trying to build a business, if you're trying to, whatever you may be trying to do, whatever dream you are chasing, keep going and just don't give up. People give up too easily, but with enough persistence, the impossible becomes possible. And number 22. Everything matters. It wasn't until high school that I realized just how scary lounge chairs could be. But these weren't just any lounge chairs. They were the kind that had a needle drip on them. My mom had cancer. I vividly remember the moment when I was in the kitchen with my father, and after a moment of ominous silence, he looked me in the eyes and said, Chris, Mom has cancer. It was a terrifying time, and as I mentioned, my mom had to go in for chemotherapy. I watched her lose her hair and really battle. And when she would go in for her chemotherapy sessions, there were others with her that became familiar faces. And one of those familiar faces was a French woman. She was beautiful and surprisingly young, and it was devastating to see her in that situation. That French woman did something generous and gifted my mom a book on plant-based nutrition to spark some inspiration and give her some hope. And my mom dove into that book, and she took what she learned and ran with it. She transformed her health through a foundation of plant-based nutrition and holistic wellness and well-being. And I'm getting emotional thinking about this because this is so inspiring. And she created vibrant health, and she conquered cancer. And now at 72 years old,
She is more vibrantly healthy than ever. Cancer has had no place in her life. She speaks to doctors. She works with individuals to improve their health, sharing everything she learned that worked for her. My mother's future and our family's future was transformed thanks to that book that French woman gave to my mother. And yet that French woman died. And she will never know the transformative impact that that simple gesture of giving a book had on my mom and all of us and all the people that my mom touches. Everything you do in your life matters. Every little gesture matters. And it can have a ripple effect into the future, and it can change lives. Something as simple as giving a book, giving a smile, and a listening ear, and telling someone that they're enough. You are capable. I believe in you. Remember that everything matters in life. You matter, and you're here to make an impact. Thank you for being here. All right, guys, that's it. That's everything I got. I took 2 weeks to film this freaking video, the most important video I ever dropped on YouTube. All the lessons I've learned at 32 that I wish I knew at 22. I hope this inspired you. I hope this elevates you. I hope it causes a paradigm shift that transforms your future. And I hope you share this with more people who could benefit from the message. Oh yeah, and a shameless plug. If you can't tell, I believe that a career in tech sales is a vehicle to creating a life of freedom and impact. And for anyone in their early 20s who doesn't know what you want to do, but you want to be great, you want to make a difference, you can hop on this wave and I can help you with my programs to break into a top company, stack six-figure years, build the financial capital, connections, skill sets, and even the self-development to go further into anything you want to do tomorrow when you finally take that bet on yourself and your calling that you discover that I talked about. You guys are awesome. Again, thanks for being here and a part of this growing community. I want the best for you. I want you to win in life and to your success in tech sales and in life. Happy selling and happy living, and we'll see you in the next one.